What's up, everybody? My name is Bryce, aka DubsNotSubs, and today we are going to be looking at Kazuo Umezu's one of the most influential horror manga artists, if not the most important horror manga artist. His most influential work, or most popular work, Drifting Classroom. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. Yeah, you thought I was going to do an explosion, didn't you? Huh? You think you know me? Huh? Huh? Ah! But anyway, guys, Drifting Classroom is a story that follows an elementary school that ends up getting teleported into a different area or different world that they assume. But I don't want to say any spoilers about what actually setting they end up doing. Let's just say they teleported somewhere crazy. It's not an isekai, though, so it's not, they're not going to some fantasy world or anything. But yeah, this story follows Takematsu, and who is the main character in their whole first through sixth grade, and them trying to survive in this new world. So this book actually has one of my favorite, if not my favorite ever, first chapters. Just the perspectives and like just showing the initial what happens and like the initial freak out and teleportation from so many different perspectives and people. It's just really well done and really good because it starts off with Takematsu right there. But I'll probably put a picture of him on the screen anyway. Of him actually running and getting into a fight with his mom and running to school, saying he never wants to come home or anything. And then he ends up, as he goes to school, he forgets his lunch money, and he decides not to go back home and ends up going to school anyway. And his other friend who was with him, who also forgot his lunch money, ends up going home. So as the friend's running back, all of a sudden you hear a giant explosion, just this huge crash and like blood-curdling sound, breaking windows, causing an earthquake and everything. So after it ends, it's like a 3-minute long earthquake and they go to check out, and they find out that the entire school building has just disappeared. And his friend, it starts off with the perspective of his friend, who's the one who went home to get lunch and then come back, ends up finding that the whole school's gone. So then after it jumps to that, it ends up jumping to Takematsu's mom. And you get to see how she feels bad for getting in this fight with him, saying how she never wanted him to come back home, and this just feeling how stupid she felt, and then ends up having this happen, and then she blames herself for all this, and just seeing how it comes from her perspective. And then finally it goes to Takematsu's perspective and shows that what happened inside the school and how they got teleported and basically where they are. And basically when they hit down or land or whatever, when the earthquake's over and they look out the windows, they end up that they're in some sort of like desert wasteland, and they don't really know where they are. So after that, this basically follows the story of Takematsu and his whole school just trying to survive, and it is horror in the aspect of their teachers there too, but let's just say the adults don't do so well. Let's just say it's not that they couldn't handle it, but it's they couldn't freaking handle it. But yeah, the teachers end up going crazy, and through one way or another, they end up with only the children being left and having to survive on their own. So basically, this is them trying just to figure out how to go in the world, survive, and do all this other stuff, and basically other supernatural things or other strange things start happening around the school. Nothing like Junji Ito style, like some like dissolving classroom, like some dudes like apologizing too much and everyone in the classroom just like melts or something stupid like that. But yeah, this sort of horror, I'm usually not big into horror, but this one actually does in a way in a horror genre that I can actually get behind, which is more psychological and less jump scares. It's more building off of stuff and horror that builds up, that stays with you, makes you think about it and stuff like that. Not like the thing with I'm gonna say this, and people aren't gonna like what I have to say, but so far from the stuff I read from Junji Ito, I kind of think he's overrated. I know. I'm sorry. In my disclaimer though, I've not read Uzumaki Gyo, or there's the other one. What's the one? I can't remember. It's the one with the girl, and I don't think that's Uzumaki, but it might be. But what is it? Oh, Tomi. That's the one I really want to check out because that one looks pretty good. But yeah, so far from Junji Ito stuff, like I've read Frankenstein, Dissolving Classroom, and I think Junji Ito, Yon, and Cat, whatever his cat one is. And so far, my favorite one's the cat one so far. But I guess the stuff I really don't like with him is it just plays off of it's just your typical creepy setting. It's like creepy setting, stupid stuff. They have the characters themselves do stupid things where they just have to force the horror in or whatever. Just like the horror genre as a whole, I'm not really a big fan of. And basically showing something that's more psychological, like this teacher right here going insane compared to this photo of just like this super creepy gross picture of this girl in the zombie classroom. Then again, zombie classroom is basically just rehashing the same thing over and over again. It's just, here's the same dude apologizing, saying the same thing over and over again, and then somebody gets messed up by the end of it, and that's the whole thing. So I mean, if I read Uzumaki Gyo and Tomi, I don't know, I shouldn't say that so far I say he's overrated, but I don't know if he's actually what his best works are yet. So I haven't read his best works yet. So I do plan on reading those and still giving it a chance. I do want to like Junji Ito. I like his art. The creepiness is really cool, but man, the story so far has just not been my thing. But anyway, back to this. This story, however, is freaking amazing. I really like the story of it and the horror elements of it. There is a thing that if you guys don't like, since it's made back in 1950, if you don't like the traditional old style thinking where one line in this or about it, they're trying to do elect presidents or whatever to try to bring some semblance of a nation or whatever for the school, and one of the kids are just saying that women aren't capable for office and stuff. I don't agree with that. That's what the book said. I'm just saying that if you guys can get past that one little but so far, other than that, there really isn't too much of like any like sexist comments or anything like that. This book, for the most part, besides that line, is pretty neutral with that stuff, because there's still like, there's a girl who's called the princess who ends up being like talking about how she's stronger than boys and all stuff, and like beating up and trying to like take over like reign of regime and all this stuff and trying to become powerful. So other than that line, really there really isn't anything bad or like that or that kind of bad or whatever. But if you can look past that little part, it's very good. The horror elements of it are really cool, really psychological. It does have that old style art, which I really do enjoy. It works really well for the horror elements, and just the faces that they make are really well done. The 2-page spreads in this thing are absolutely one of the best. I love the 2-page spreads in this thing. Like, one of the scenes, like the first chapter, is the first initial, where they have a 2-page of the classroom sitting in silence, and then the next 2-page is just boom. It's just the earthquake, the initial earthquake, and like the shaking and everything it's so cool. These 2 pages and like his art style works so well for what he's trying to get across. Yeah, so far the book quality itself and the page quality of this actual book is very good. It's 3-in-1. So there will be, I believe there's going to be 4 of these. But yeah, the page quality and the book itself, it's a hardcover. And usually I'm not too big of a fan of hardcovers. But the funny thing is, 2 like books that I'm really into, Lavius and this, are both hardcovers. But something about I don't know. I'm just not a huge fan of hardcovers. But this is really well made. It's really well done. I ended up liking the hardcover towards the end of it. It's just, sometimes it gets a little awkward to hold it whatever when you're trying to read it like halfway through or whatever. But anyway, this book, absolutely amazing. Love it so far. Definitely, there are some problems, some shortcomings with dragging out scenes, or again, stupid stuff happens. But the one thing I do like, when like even like I said, the stupid stuff, that really keeps in perspective that they're kids. He doesn't really make them act all grown up in the sense of they still have their childlike behavior. Like, a lot of them are always screaming for mom and like freaking out. Even Takematsu, who's ends up becoming a leader, like their hope symbol, and has all this still kid aspects where he still freaks out and doesn't think sensibly all the time. I like that he doesn't instantly try to make him like the smartest character and like the know-it-all and everything. And Saki, I really like. It's Saki, Yu, and Takamatsu are kind of like, they're my 3 favorite characters. Saki is the girl that always is like the biggest supporter of Takamatsu. She basically is I would say without Saki, Takamatsu wouldn't be as mature and able to do what he does, because she's been kind of the one who supported him and backed him up for the most part throughout this whole story. And then Yu, who's a little kid who's not actually at the school but ends up getting teleported with them because he ends up having to be on school grounds riding a strike or whatever, who's kind of like, when you see them all together, it's kind of almost like they're their own family, because it's like Takamatsu is the husband, Saki's the wife, and then Yu's their kid or whatever. But that dynamic of those 3 are really well done. And then there's another girl, I can't remember her name, but she basically has a limp. She has some messed up leg, and I feel like she's going to come into play later on, because he just basically found her in the desert one day as they're going to try to find food and stuff. I don't want to say if they found it or what happened on the trip besides that they found her. But yeah, so far I'm really enjoying this book. I would say definitely a 7 out of 10 so far. Like I said, it's too early to call because I got to see where the middle drags out to. But so far, definitely a definite read, definite pickup. It's a little expensive, but it is 3 volumes. It's only $35, so you like pick it up when you get it on sale. You could probably get it for cheaper. I think I got mine for like $25 or $20 or something like that. I would say that's definitely about a better price than paying $35 for it. But yeah, definitely worth picking up. Great book, loving everything about it. And if you guys do want to stick around for more spoiler review, like I always do, spoiler review after this part. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you are stopping right here, but without further ado, let's get into the more spoiler reviews. Alright, like I said initially, with all the teachers going crazy, it basically, as a teacher called Mr. Wakahari, I believe that's his name, he is kind of the leader, the only thing that's staying mature or whatever, but eventually throughout, something happens with a lunchroom man who is not part of the school, he just delivers the food and whatever, ends up going crazy and kidnapping all the, well, he kidnaps a kid, but he ends up stealing all the food and like holding it himself and like threatening to kill a kid if anyone comes in or whatever. So basically at one point all the teachers are trying to bang on the door and get in. So what's his name? I think it's not Sayuki. I'm just gonna call him Lunchroom Man because that's what everyone else calls him. He basically pours oil under the door because he has the door locked and then lights it on fire and then lights all the teachers on fire. So a bunch of the teachers get burned and all this. Mr. Wakahari's legs are all like seared and like messed up. And then later on, all the kids, he gets a gun somehow and ends up going through the school buildings because someone stole bread from the room and he's going to search for people who stole his bread. And as he gets to the final room, which is the 6th graders room with Takamatsu and all of them, they decide to devise a plan where all the boys jump on him at once and just basically kick and punch and just try to knock him out and try to tie him up. So this plan ends up working. They end up tying up, leaving him in the locker room, and later on, you get to see all the teachers trying to just freaking out. One teacher ends up slitting his own throat and killing himself because he can't handle the craziness of what's going on and all that, which is just freaking, begins the downhill of all the teachers. Then what happens is Mr. Wakahari ends up going, tie me up. If you don't tie me up, something's going to happen. So they think he's going to like kill himself or something, so they end up tying him. They don't tie him down in time, which I don't really understand why he ends up making the switch, but he ends up actually strangling one of the guys, one of the teachers, and ends up slaughtering all the teachers and just killing them all. And then saying that something happened where they ended up all dying and just making up the story to all the kids. So Mr. Wakahari ends up having this plan where he wants to take a bunch of 6th graders out and go find food. Try to find food and water and see what's in the wastelands because they find a car on the school property. So as they go out, that's when they find that girl with the limp, take her with them, and then Mr. Wakahari ends up taking them to the Arakawa River instead of where they were supposed to go, which was where the old town was. So as they take them to the river, he ends up taking them out and getting awkwardly quiet. They find a kid buried in the sand, which is one of the people they took with them on the search party, with a plastic bag around his head, buried in the sand. So he picks him up and asks him what happened. He's like, Mr. Wakahari did it. So this begins, Mr. Wakahari finally snaps and they find out. So he basically takes the car and tries to just runs over like all the kids. And basically Takamatsu and the girl with the limp are the only two survivors. He's running and these guys are carrying out her back and he ends up falling in this hole. And then as he falls into the sand dune and then still running away from Mr. Wakahari, ends up at the end of a ledge and they find out that they're in an old skyscraper. So after this, Mr. Wakahari catches up and as he's choking him, there becomes a flashback of his mom. And basically, we get to see what happened with her and her kind of going crazy. But at one point, I forgot to mention this because I didn't think it was going to be relevant, but I forgot that was in it. At one point, during the beginning, he tries to get the phone to work at the building. And he calls in and he starts saying, Mom, help me, Mom, and all this stuff. And he doesn't get a response. So he hangs up and like that's the very beginning when they're trying to see the phone book. So cut back here with the mom. She ends up picking the phone up in the past and ends up hearing her son's voice. So she hears him through the phone and everyone else thinks he's going crazy or whatever, but she ends up actually hearing him from the future somehow. She can't respond back, but so she ends up finding everyone kind of thinks she's just going a little crazy because of what happened to her son and going missing. And what ends up happening is that she hears his voice again and ends up following it all the way to a hotel, which is the same place that he happens to be getting choked in the future. So she devises a plan after getting kicked out the first time in the hotel, going back and then actually hiding his old knife inside the wall because she believes that he'll be able to find it in the future and it'll help him somehow. So what happens is we cut back to the future after she gets that thing in the wall and he ends up grabbing something out of the ground and stabbing up like this and going and like stabs the Mr. Wakahari's neck, and he ends up falling off the skyscraper into the ground and everything. But yeah, it was super intense. That whole moment was super cool. It was weird to see how she could hear his voice from the past, like psychologically or telekinetically through the past, like talking to her, and he was able to hear it. But yeah, this rusty old knife stabs it, but it's so old. The knife is so old, the second he stabs it, it snaps off because it's so rusted and old. But yeah, it ends up happening that she wakes up. She says, the girl with the lamp says she had a dream about how her mom ended up coming to this hotel and putting that knife in the wall because she heard his voice. It was weird how she ended up having this dream or whatever. But yeah, so far, I just want to give you like a little encompassment of what that book's about, what it can be in store. A lot of psychological stuff, a little bit of supernatural stuff thrown throughout in it. But yeah, like I said, I'm loving it so far. I'm really good. This is one of the horror stories that I'm actually really into because to me, it feels like less of a horror, more of a thriller, because I love thrillers. I hate horror. Just because not because I'm like, oh my god, they're so scary. It's just like I always hate them because I just think the plot's never really good, or I've never really experienced like a really good horror movie, I guess. And I've watched a decent amount, but I always think they do end up doing stupid things to have the horror movie happen, and like stupid plot points and everything. But anyway, guys, I do love Drifting Classroom. Like I said, 7. Cannot wait to see how it goes. I believe there are 11 volumes, so like I said, 4 deluxe edition. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, I will see you in the next video. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you do want to see more. Tell me in the comments below what you want to see. Like I said, on Twitter, I'm at DubsNotSubs, and I'm also in Alonzi's Discord. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.